Hey there, Tamir from Fibonacci-Traders.com here with the daily market recap. I hope everybody enjoyed today's roller coaster ride brought to you by Mr. Jerome Powell, SPY, Qs and friends. Please hit the like, subscribe, share with friends, and let's ride the roller coaster. As we always say, all gaps will get filled throughout time. Not all, more than 80%. Of all gaps will get filled throughout time, and Fibonacci Traders Premium Room, we knew it. This lower gap needs to get filled. 1 hour before the close, we knew it. And this gap got filled in the last 30 minutes of today. Now, all we have to do is follow price, use levels to manage our risk. Next support, 388 to the downside, and trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. This is all we have to know. In-depth candlestick analysis, the relationship with trend lines, gaps, and we use Fibonacci levels. QQQ went all the way up, 314. Now breaking below once again the 310. This 310 was a very important level of support and resistance. Now broke to the downside, closed this gap over here. 303 needs to hold, otherwise this trend line will get retested as support because it was resistance. IWM continuation bouncing between the 170 and the 176, and if you saw my previous videos, and I believe you saw them, we said that we might get the same price action that we got here during December. Now we have the same price action over here, bouncing up and down between 170 and 176. Short below 170, long at least a week or so above 177. Dow Jones 325, very tough resistance because it was a very important support. Dow Jones also closed this gap over here. Now it might go all the way down to 316 and maybe 315, and then it needs to hold. Otherwise we have another gap to the downside over here, 311. Follow price, look for gaps, manage risk according trend lines and Fibonacci levels. That's it. Bitcoin, another great example of why trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. I know I sound like a broken record, but this is it, guys. There's nothing more, nothing less. In-depth candlestick analysis and the relationship with trend lines, and here you have it. 4 consecutive days Bitcoin is struggling with this trend line, and if bulls will give up, you know it, this trend line that was a very tough resistance will become support. And if this trend line will fail to hold, we have 25,200, orange trend line, yellow trend line, and all the way down. Ethereum broadening formation at its best. We have 5 consecutive days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive days. Ethereum struggling and failing to break up and above this broadening formation. And if bulls will finally give up, and they will, if this trend line will not get broken to the upside in the next couple days, bulls will give up and then flash to the downside when 16 to 90 needs to hold. Then we have all the levels to the downside. In my opinion, 1620 is the next major support. VIX Fibonacci levels, trend lines, and candlestick analysis. That's it. Nothing more, nothing else. We have this trend line over here now. Let's see if VIX will touch it and bounce. But as you can see, Fibonacci levels holding as support and resistance. And if you saw my previous videos and you follow me on Twitter, you know these levels. We did not touch them. We did not adjust them for a couple of weeks already. And now we have a doji of the 20 area, this area, very important level of support and resistance. Now doji of the support, we might get a bounce back above the 2240, maybe back 2650. Natural gas, nothing really special here. Let's see if we can get a double bottom scenario, but this 220, 216 area needs to hold, and we need at least a few days closing above the 250, and then we might get a bounce towards a double bottom scenario validation. Oil bounced off this blue trend line. If you go to line chart, cannot be more accurate. No need Fibonacci. Price action and lines. That's it. Now, next major resistance will be the 73.25, but we might get some kind of a pullback over here. Then we can take Fibonacci, swing high, swing low, and we can see 70 tough resistance because it was support over here. Now oil is struggling. We might get retraced back to the 67.50 area and then towards the 73.74. Follow price, use levels to manage risk. Gold line, trend line, resistance, resistance, resistance. Now let's see if Mr. Gold can bounce back and retest this trend line and maybe finally breaking up and above, and then it will go retest all-time highs at the 2063, and then we have all the levels to the upside, future resistance for price. AAPL from resistance, this trend line, this red trend line, from resistance, now acting as support, failing to do so, and if this trend line will fail to hold Apple's price, we might go back to 150 area, to this trend line over here. Line chart is the noise. We don't even need candles, we don't need anything. All we have to do is follow price. We have a line, very easy on the eyes. This trend line, resistance, resistance. Now needs to hold as support. Otherwise, this blue trend line to the downside will be next. Tesla, after yesterday breaking up and above the 185, now unfortunately we have this gap over here. It will get filled tomorrow or Friday, in my opinion, and then 185 needs to hold, otherwise 176, and if 176 will fail to hold, 163, and we know we have this gap over here and we have this gap over here. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Which gap will get filled first? This one here at the 145, 146, or this gap over here? I will not let you know my opinion about it, because everything you see and hear on this video is for educational purposes only. We try to understand in-depth candlestick analysis and the relationship with trend lines, gaps, and Fibonacci levels. And if you want to take your trading journey to the next level, stop following others and become your own indicator in this crazy market. check the links in the description below. One-on-one mentorship program or pre-recorded 6 hours, 49 lessons. The only program out there with lifetime access, support, guidance, and all Discord channels until you will not need them. And this is my purpose, to transform you to become your own indicator, an independent, consistent, profitable trader until you will not need me or anybody else in this matter. Google, Doji below the 103, some kind of a pullback will be very healthy on Google. After this double bottom scenario got validated, now 100 will get retested as support because it was a very tough resistance. From resistance, it will become support. Failing to hold, all we have to do is follow price and use these levels to the downside to manage our risk for future support. AMD. Trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. 4 consecutive days since it hit this trend line. And as you can see, each and every time since, we can say since here, October or November, AMD got rejected. Now 93 needs to hold, otherwise 89 and maybe all the way back to 84. No one knows. Following price, that's it. NVDA, Doji off this trend line. And I know you recognize these trend lines because you follow me on Twitter and you saw previous videos. These trend lines, we drew them few weeks back. These trend lines, support, resistance, broke to the upside, went to this trend line over here. From support, resistance, resistance. Doji off a trend line is never a bullish signal. We might get retraced back to this trend line, maybe inside this channel. And yes, we have this gap over here. This gap needs to get filled. The sooner, the better. Shopify, back below the 46 area. Shopify is playing hide and seek. But as long as this trend line is holding the higher lows, it's an uptrend. Meta, holding above this trend line, grinding up slowly on this trend line. But as we can see, bulls looks like they're out of power. They are struggling to hold this trend line because they know if this trend line will fail to hold and they will lose grip on this trend line, you have this black hole over here. We can take Fibonacci, swing high, swing low, swing high, 197.80 together with this trend line needs to hold. Otherwise, look at here, another gap over here, and then 175, 167, and this gap over here. Know your gaps. Microsoft basically moving sideways since this doji over here, pullback is needed. Now 268 needs to hold, otherwise follow price and follow the levels to the downside for future support. Bounce back, this trend line will get retested once again as resistance. Look left, resistance, resistance, resistance. Now it still didn't touch it over here. Maybe a bounce off the 268, maybe off the 260, bounce towards red trend line, and the 294. Amazon, 100 for Amazon is a very tough one. We might get retracement back to this blue trend line. This blue trend line was a very tough resistance. Now it needs to get retested as support, and then we might get a bounce back to the upside, following price using levels and trend lines to manage our risk. That's it. As traders, the only job we have is managing our risk. Nothing more, nothing less. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit the like, subscribe, share with friends, follow me on Twitter, check the links in the description below, one-on-one mentorship program, or the Fibonacci Traders program online, 6 hours pre-recorded, 49 lessons, the only program that will transform you to become your own indicator. Until the next video, stay safe.